So it's a really good year to start adventure riding. The choice is better than it's been for a long time. So if you are thinking of starting out on your adventure riding journey, this year is a brilliant year to start it. Now, I'm going to go through what I see as the top choices for adventure riding. I'm not going to include dual sports, and I'm not going to include higher end stuff. I think really looking at that criteria of lightweight, affordable, reliable, all those things, I think we've got 4 bikes that really stand out to me, and I'm going to go through them in this video, and I'm going to talk about the pros and cons. Now, as you can see, I own 2 of them. So I've got the CRF 300L Rally here, and I've got the new and much talked about CF Moto 450 MT. And I'm gonna add a couple more into that group as well, and then there's another one that's coming later in the year that could be interesting. I think first of all, we've got to talk about the CRF 300 Rally. Rally is $6,199 plus shipping charges, and it's a 286cc single. Out of all the bikes we're looking at today, it is the least powerful. It's got 27 horsepower and 26 Newton meters of torque, but it is the lightest, coming in at 150 kilos for the non-ABS model, which is the model that I've got right here. In terms of suspension travel, which is pretty important when you're going off-road, it's got 10.2 inches, which is actually the most here out of all the bikes that I'm going to talk about today. But it does have non-adjustable suspension. You can adjust the rear for the preload, but there's no compression damping, rebound damping, anything like that, and it's quite soft out of the box. But for beginners, it's fine. It does pretty much everything you want it to do. It gives you a nice, cushioned, comfortable ride. It gets a little bit out of shape when you start going a little bit faster on rough stuff. But as a beginner, that's probably not going to bother you too much, and it can cope with most things. There is plenty of aftermarket support, so if you find that that shock is just too soft for you, then there's a bunch of options from YSS all the way up to Rally Raid and Race Tech and these companies. Now for beginners, I think seat height's pretty important, and the Rally has got the highest seat out of the lot at 35.2 inches. But it does squash down quite a bit. So I have a 32-inch inside leg, I'm 6 foot tall, and I find the Rally stock very comfortable to sit on. So it really squats down. It goes with a 21-18 combination, so a 21-inch front and an 18 rear, which gives you lots of choice for off-road tires. And for mixed tires, so you can go with the stock tires are okay, they're knobbies, so a little bit more off-road orientated than the other bikes we're going to talk about today. It actually means that you get a little bit more traction off-road than the other bikes, and that really is where the Rally is in its element, is that doing that 50-50 or even more bias towards off-road. It's okay on the road, cruising up to 100 is comfortable. You get some tire whine when you're going sort of 90 kilometers an hour plus, which is not ideal, but you put earplugs in and it's okay. It doesn't bother me too much, but it does have that, so it's something to be aware of. But going 50-50 off-road, on-road, or more biased towards off-road is really where the Rally shines, with that lightweight nature, with the stock tires it comes with, and with that really cushy suspension. It absorbs all the bumps pretty well at slow pace. Where the Rally really shines is reliability. This bike and the CRF 250s before it have got a proven track record. They've been around the world. Just look at Itchy Boots and all these other people who've been doing world tours on CRF 250s or 300s. It's a Honda, you expect it to be reliable. It's got 8,000 kilometer or 5,000 mile service intervals, which is really nice. And it's easy to service, it's easy to maintain. Most mechanics can work on it pretty easy. There's no fancy electronics to go wrong. So if you're looking for a simple bike that will do your on-road, but it will do your off-road just as well, if not better, then the Rally's a really, really good choice. If you're gonna do more road riding, then maybe look at some of these other options. But if you do the kind of riding like on my videos, check them out, where you're not going too fast, you're generally under 100 kilometers an hour, and you're doing trails, tracks, exploring, the Rally's really, really perfect for that. In terms of features, it's the least spec'd out of the lot. So the features on the Rally are none. Well, you get ABS if you pay for the ABS model. You get a switched accessory port, which means that you can buy a USB port and you can wire it in and it's already switched into the ignition. So when you turn the ignition on, it will come on and it will charge or be powered. That is it really in terms of features. So it's a pretty basic bike, but I kind of like that. There's no electronics at all, which I like. But if you do want those creature comforts, then the Rally may not be the bike for you. But if you just want a bike that works, that's reliable, that's the lightest out of the bunch, that's a really, really good place to start the Rally. The only things on it is if you want to do more highway mileage, might not be the best. At 27 horsepower and 26 Newton meters of torque, it's a little bit down on power compared to the others in this group. I don't notice that if you're not trying to go, you know, over 100. It has enough to have fun off-road, and it has enough to clip along on the road if you're not doing motorway, highway. There's also the benefit of that power is very, very manageable. So as a beginner, if your clutch control's not perfect, if your throttle control's not perfect, it's kind of forgiving and you're not going to get yourself into too much trouble with it. Okay, so next up, we've got the CF Moto 450 MT. It's a beautiful looking bike. It looks like a mini Tenere or even a mini Africa Twin, some people have said. It comes in at 6,499 plus a destination charge, so a freight charge. So it's not the cheapest here. In fact, it's the second most expensive out of this group that I'm going to talk about today, but it's still really, really good value. It's a twin cylinder, 450cc, 270 crank engine. So twin cylinder means it's smoother than the Rally. In fact, it's smoother than all the others because all the others are singles, so it stands out for that. So it's got a little bit more power than the Rally at 44 horsepower and 44 Newton meters of torque, and you can feel that down low and in the mid-range. At the top end, it's geared a little bit low, a little bit short, so you don't feel the power in the top end hugely over the Rally, but because it's geared shorter, once you get to 120-ish, it's revving quite high. So in terms of engine, I'd say this is probably the best engine out of the bunch. It sounds beautiful. It's got a 270 crank, so the sound of that firing order is really, really nice. It sounds great stock. I would not swap the stock exhaust. It sounds really, really good. When it first came out, everyone got excited about this sort of lightweight 450cc adventure bike, but unfortunately the weight is a little bit on the higher end. So it's actually 175 kilos dry. Fatty, fat, fat, fatty! The 175 kilos is 386 pounds dry weight. So you got to add your fuel in on top of that, plus the oil, plus fluids and all that stuff. It ends up being about 194 kilos wet weight. And that's a little bit on the high side for a 450cc adventure bike. But now having ridden it, I'd say it hides its weight really, really well. Doing the same tracks and trails as the Rally, and I'm actually doing it just as fast. It comes quite harsh from the factory, and that actually encourages you to ride faster. So it's set up to push a little bit on it, and you find that you can skip across rough terrain pretty well on the CF Moto. Where it lets itself down a little bit is that harshness for slower riding. So you're going to have to back off the compression and the rebound a little bit to smooth out the ride at slower speeds. And as a beginner, that's probably what you're going to be doing. But you have got fully adjustable suspension up front, and in the rear, you've got rebound and preload. So that's amazing value for the price. In terms of suspension travel and ground clearance, it's 8 inches. So it's a little bit less than the Rally. So if you're doing really sort of technical stuff, or if you're riding that much harder off-road, then the ground clearance may become an issue, but if you put a really sturdy bash plate on, then that'll probably negate that. It does come with a skid plate, but it's only like a 2mm aluminium skid plate, so probably not up to sort of big impacts. But then the Rally comes with a plastic skid plate. So okay, so as a beginner bike, I really love the CF Moto 450 MT, and even myself as an experienced rider, I really like this bike. It's brilliant for on the road. It's really comfortable. It's got a low seat height, so that's really important as a beginner. It's going to be accessible to a lot of people. So the seat height on the CF Moto is only 31.5 inches to 32.3 inches. That's really, really low in terms of adventure bikes. So most adventure bikes have got a much taller seat than that. It's actually adjustable, so you can change the position on the shock, and so you can adjust it slightly. You also have the option of a tall seat, a low seat. So it's really accessible to a lot of people, which just makes it a great bike to start out on. The confidence you get from being able to put your feet down comfortably is really nice. It's got a 17-litre fuel tank, which is pretty good. Obviously, it's a little bit more than the Rally, but the fuel consumption is worse than the Rally. So at the moment, I'm getting 22 kilometers per litre, whereas on the Rally, I would get around 30 or more. It's again got that 2118 tyre setup. Comes with like a Pirelli Scorpion Rally copy of a tyre, which is a CST, Chinese brand. Tyre I found is really good on road, really stable, does really good job on road, makes you feel confident and comfortable, and equally it does a good job off-road. Now it's not as good off-road as the tyres that come on the Rally, but it does well off-road on gravel tracks, simple stuff. In terms of features, it's spec'd up quite a bit more than the Rally. So it comes with ABS as standard, and you can switch that off with the press of one button. You can switch off the rear ABS and the traction control. So it also comes with traction control, which is really, it's a nice feature to have. I don't think it's essential at this power level, but it's nice to have. It also has some really nice touches on this CF Moto. So it's got an adjustable screen. It's got a little accessory rally bar where you can mount your GPS or your phone. It also has USB-C, USB-A ports, which is nice to be able to charge those gadgets up. And it also has adjustable levers, and it has folding gear shift and brake levers or brake pedals. So I think it's really, really well spec'd. It's a really well thought out bike. And the only question marks for me with it are the reliability, which we just don't know at the moment. This engine has been used in a previous sports bike model, and there's been no major reliability issues with it. So there's nothing to make me think it's not going to be reliable. There are also guys now who have done 10,000 kilometers or more on this bike without major issues. So that bodes well. And also the service intervals are a little bit short. So at 3,000 kilometers, the service intervals are considerably shorter than something like the Rally. So it's just those things to bear in mind. If you can cope with those service intervals, and if you have dealers fairly close to you, then those things probably are not a problem. On a longer trip, you can always do the oil change and the filter change yourself anyway. It's pretty simple to do. So it's a really, really good bike. If you're gonna do sort of 50-50, perfect. If you're a little bit more biased towards the road, but you still wanna be able to handle those gravel tracks, that off-road stuff, and then you think maybe you'll get more into the off-road, this is a really, really good bike for it. Okay, the next one is the new KTM 390 Adventure R. Now, I am seriously excited about this bike. More off-road orientated. It's got a 2118 tire combination. If you look at what they've done, they've given it 9 inches of suspension travel. They've given it fully adjustable front and rear suspension. And there's 30 clicks of adjustment on the front suspension, and there's 20 clicks of adjustment on the back suspension. It takes the engine, basically the latest Duke engine, detunes it a little bit. It gives you 40 horsepower and 40 Newton meters of torque, which is plenty for this kind of bike. So it's similar figures to the CF Moto, a little bit down, but it is a single cylinder. The exciting thing about the KTM to me is the weight. It's coming in at 165 kilos dry weight, which is 363 pounds. So it's just coming in between the weight of the Rally and the CF Moto. So it's gonna feel lighter again than the CF Moto. And I just wanna know, I wanna ride it because I wanna see how close does it feel to that Rally in terms of weight. Seat height, again, is a little bit less beginner friendly. It's at 34 inches. So it's getting up towards the same as the Rally. And with a slightly more weight, that might be a concern for some beginners, but we'll just have to wait and see how it feels. Is it a wide seat? Is it a narrow seat? You know, how does it feel when you actually ride it? A 14-litre fuel tank, and in terms of features, it looks feature-packed. So it's got ABS, which again is switchable at the rear wheel. The same as the CF Moto, if you switch the engine off using the kill switch, but you don't turn the ignition with the key off, it doesn't reset. It's also coming in with cornering traction control, USB-C connections, and it's gonna have an optional cruise control as well, which will be nice for you guys who are gonna do sort of more long rides on the roads. We'll have to see how it's geared as well. On paper, this bike looks like it's gonna be a real winner. In terms of reliability, that's gonna be an interesting thing. So the service interval is actually a 10,000 kilometers on this bike, which is the largest by far. The next one down would be 8,000 kilometers with the Rally. So they're obviously pretty confident in the engine, they're pretty confident in the motor and the reliability of the bike. which bodes well. We'll have to see. Based on previous models, I think it's probably around about the same as the CF Moto in terms of reliability. It's got a better name, KTM being a better brand name, but these bikes are made in India by Bajaj. So it's not like you're getting the bike made from Austria, it's made in Bajaj, so it's really down to the standards that they set in the factory. KTM, how closely are they monitoring it? There have been issues pop up with KTMs that are made over there before. We'll have to wait and see on that. But with 10,000 kilometer service intervals, they're obviously pretty confident. The price is an interesting one. So the price is coming in at $6,999 US plus freight charges. So it is the most expensive here, but it is the most feature packed. It's probably got the best suspension, but we'll have to wait and see on that. And it is the second lightest as well. And it's the second most powerful. So it probably on paper offers the best specs of the bunch and looks like it will be the best bike of the bunch. It's a bloody good looking bike as well. All that's left to be seen really is how it actually rides and how reliable it is. Are there any teething issues with it being a brand new model and stuff? The final bike that I want to talk about is the Royal Enfield Himalayan 450. And a lot of people love this bike. It's a retro styled bike. The looks are not particularly to my taste, but it looks all right. But if you like that retro style, then it's going to be right up your street. Now it's a 452cc single again, the same as all the bikes here apart from the CF Moto. That bike though is knocking out 40 horsepower and 40 Newton meters of torque, which is a little bit down on the CF Moto and the KTM, but it's still significantly more than the Rally. The real kicker for me with the Himalayan is the weight of it. So it's weighing in at 196 kilos. That's a wet weight though, that's 432 pounds. And that's getting on a bit, it's a bit of a porker in it really, let's be honest. It's a little bit more than the CF Moto. I think it carries the weight lower down though. Having not ridden one, I can't tell how it rides. Suspension travel is the same as the CF Moto with 8 inches. And in terms of the suspension itself, it's supposed to be pretty plush and pretty well set up, but it's not adjustable apart from for preload. The seat height again is adjustable, which is a nice feature for beginners, and it's a nice low seat height. It's 32.5 inches to 33.3 inches. So it's nearly as low as the CF Moto, and it's substantially lower than the Rally and the KTM 390 Adventure R. So it is going to be a little bit more beginner friendly. It's got a 17 litre or 4.6 US gallon fuel tank again, which is the same as the CF Moto, which both have the largest fuel tanks here. It goes to a 21/17 on the tyres, so 21 up front, which is nice for taking those hits and getting over stuff. The 17 actually gives you a little bit more tyre choice, so I can see why they've done it. Not quite as off-road orientated, but I don't think it's going to make much difference, to be quite honest with you. In terms of features, the Royal Enfield's given you quite a bit. So it's got that quite nice circular screen with integrated mapping, which is a fantastic feature. Also comes with USB-C connection. It's got ABS. It has engine modes as well, which is interesting for a 450cc bike. I just don't think you need it, but some people might like it, I suppose. And the service intervals on that are the same as the CF Moto at 5,000 kilometers or 3,000 miles. Reliability score, again, it's made out in India. I've read some comments about some of the welds not being great, that the dash weld was making the dash slightly offset and things like this. So I think check the model before you buy it. Don't buy it sight unseen would be my advice on that. I'd put the reliability score about the same as CF Moto because it's yet to be proven, because it's a new model. But there's nothing that stands out to me that says, oh, you're gonna have major problems. Maybe some little niggles here and there, but hopefully nothing major. In terms of which bike wins the most categories, we've got a draw basically between the Rally, the CF Moto and the KTM. If I score the bikes, giving a maximum total of 40 points available if they were to win every single category there, the winner actually on paper is the KTM, getting 30 points. Coming in second place would be the CF Moto. I think the CF Moto is an excellent buy at the price. It's going to come in, certainly here in the Philippines, it's coming in cheaper than the KTM. Coming in third place would be the Rally, and what really the Rally does well is it's reliable, it's simple, it's got nice long service intervals. You know that bike is going to work for you, and if you want a bike that does everything that you want, as long as you're not doing highway riding, then I think the Rally is just a really, really good choice. So that's the 4 bikes that I currently think are top of the pile for that beginner adventure market and for the lightweight adventure market as well. So these are not just beginner bikes, They're great for people like me who want to explore, but I don't want to lug around a big 250 kilo plus bike all the time. But we mustn't forget, coming up is the BMW 450 GS, and that looks amazing.